Welcome everybody to Lunar Alchemy. Nice to see you all here. If you're joining us on Facebook, welcome. Hello, Bella. How are you?
I feel very good in my own life's work transit. I feel like I have direction. I feel like I'm kind of like not taking in nothing is changing my direction. I can take things in, but it doesn't really change where I'm going.
Mm,
And it just feels good. I feel really good.
awesome. It was nice we had a chance to speak earlier today in in one of your groups, the Portals of Deconditioning, and I got to meet everybody there. That was pretty fantastic. And we got to do a transmission, a quantum healing transmission for that group as well. That for our solar members, our Lunar Alchemy solar members, they're going to get a different transmission tonight, which I'm excited about doing because this is just going to add another layer onto this transformational possibility. And I really feel like where we are, this particular transit, the possibility is so big for everybody. And Bella, since it's your life's work, I'd love to hear your thoughts about Gene Key 2 or how you experience it, or just what's your response to this particular energy and moment?
Yeah, I would go right away to the activation sequence. So anybody who has this gene key in the activation sequence or the incarnation cross, which is in human design, your sun and your earth on both sides, and in gene keys we're calling it activation sequence. That's going to mean that you automatically have the first gene key as well because they go together, they're programming partners. And what I feel with people that have those two is the prime yin and the prime yang. It's like it's your life is going to encompass the whole kind of range of the universe. It's like you're making this kind of, I don't even know, hamburger around the universe. And it's like everything, it's all the meat and the salad and like everything is in there. So there is something where life is like really vast, and that also who you are, whether it's your soul side or your personality side, like it's there's a vastness about it. And of course in that vastness you can get lost. Of course in that vastness there are kind of black holes and stuff, in outer space where you can fall into, and you're going to try to get up, but it's like it's not until the flow of the universe changes that you're going to have something's going to spark, and that black hole is going to open up to something different. So there is like a really a vastness, and also a little bit of a, you can't really do much. The second gene key especially is like about receiving, but and you might think that that's the one where you can't do much, but the same thing with the first gene key, which is the spark. You can't force creativity like that's false creativity if you think you can. So there is an acceptance of the laws of the universe and an embodiment of those prime polarities that are in you and that define who you are. And I feel like it takes some growth in you to really understand what that means, and also to have the courage to embody it. So that's how I look at, when they are, especially in the activation sequence, or if you have them in other places where both of them are, I feel like they have that kind of interplay of that vastness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, what I'm thinking about in terms of that is how the gene keys are set up as a an experience of evolutionary transformation, and how you can be either lost in the vastness, or you can be receiving everything that the universe is going to bring to you through your life. You can be thriving, you can be struggling. And when we experience struggles, challenges, obstacles, blockages, the things that we refer to as setbacks, they're constantly guiding us into an opportunity to get deeper and more integrated into the place where that energy is coming from, and gives us an opportunity to re-choose how we want to experience that particular energy. And I think when we got started at the beginning of this very lunar year, um, in the I did an introductory video for Lunar Alchemy on my own. And in that particular one, we got to focus on my life's work, which is Gene Key 29. And here we are now, we've reached a moment where the sun is moving through your life's work in Gene Key 2. And I guess I just love to hear your perspective about in a life's work gene key in general. Like, what does it mean? How do you experience that? And then particularly, how has this particular gene key 2, shaped your experience in terms of recognizing, resonating with, and creating that life's work into something that not only you but other people can see, touch, feel, interact with?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I feel like I'm going to start from the opposite side. I'm not going to start with a shadow. I'm going to start with a city, and this is
Yeah.
something that I do see because I also have Jinky 650 that is about corruption. I do have Jinky 13 that is about discernment. So what I see with the city of unity, which is the city of my life's work, is that when you have the life's work, which is conscious, it's conscious sun, you are conscious about that quality in yourself. So I know that I have the quality of unity in me. It's like it's already there and it's conscious. And what I feel is so important, and that's sometimes a misunderstanding that we have about the jinkies, is that we feel like we're supposed to be our cities. We're supposed to embody them. And the city is really more, it's an essence. It's not really even a quality. It's an essence that's there. It's kind of an aroma, a perfume. You walk in a room and there might be this essence or aroma of the citic frequency, but you are not unity, because you wouldn't be, if you were unity really, you wouldn't be on this plane. And that really goes for all the, that really goes for all of the cities. So I feel like what I've seen and what I have seen the corruption in myself is that sometimes I'm hiding behind that city of unity, and I'm a 4/6, so I'm a little bit aloof. I don't want to look at the division, at the discord, at the duality, at the entropy that is in the world. I just want to be in that unity. And it's almost like somehow unity has to do with spirit. Like we know it's transcending the body, and it has to do, so for me, since I'm more a person that kind of have gone up to spirit when I didn't feel safe here in the world, it became an escape for me. To just see unity is an escape. I can't still today watch a movie where there is blood and shooting and people are dying. And even sometimes when it's like a drama and it's not like, but somebody's dying in a way that is sad, like I go and I feel that for days. I feel like there's a bit of too much empathy, which is of course the city of the 13, which is part of the same cross. So again, I'm like kind of moving into the city, but that's, in a human life, the city is not the place to be. So when I move too much into unity and empathy, it's almost like it interferes with my human path. And I've seen that in the community of the jinkies as well, that we are so identified with our cities, so that there's even a part of the humanness that is lost, because we're so much in spirit, so much in consciousness of the cities, so that we, even as especially as a 6 line, miss out on the human. So this is where I kind of bring it back again. I bring it back to the humanness, which is which is part of this human animal body, to our heart as humans. And it's really at the gift frequency that I want to see this gene key that has that G center anchoring. Like I'm in my heart. I'm here and I can feel my direction. And whatever I embrace in life, whatever I kiss, whatever I eat, whatever I embrace, my essence, the quality of who I am as a human is not tainted by that. That's really how I feel the essence of the second jinki. Like one day I'm gonna bleed because that's that time on the month. One day I'm gonna take in somebody in my home that has, that maybe has a dark energy, and and it's like I'm gonna take in all these things of life, but there's an inherent, an inherent architecture of who I am on all levels that is not for the feminine, for the second gene key. It's not going to change because we have that capacity of embracing without becoming the thing that is kind of moving through us. We are not becoming what is penetrating us. And I feel like that's beautiful. And it has to do with the body, both the physical body, the astral body, even the thoughts that are there, and the thoughts and opinions that are out there. I'm going to hear them, and but it's not going to dictate my direction. And that's the other part, is this like fixed inner sense of direction. I come back in, and from this inner place I have my compass and I know where I'm going. And there's also not really anything that is dictating that on the outer side. And even for the second gene key in the fourth line, which is in human design, it's that fourth line is called secretiveness. Like I can even see how much I care about that direction. So sometimes I'm not even going to tell the world that I'm doing a F turn. And I didn't know this about myself until I read it in Ross' description. It's like these people are just going to take a left turn, because then nobody's going to interfere with that direction. And there is something too with the fourth line that has, it's the heart center, so it has it cares about human. So the left turn is not going to be selfish. The left turn is going to be a service, hopefully, if we are in a. So for me to be in the gift frequency, is just, it's more true and more valuable as a human being, so I can orient myself in this body, in this plane, as a human being, and that I can, as a 4-6, be a role model for others that can trust my direction as me as a way shower. If I go way up there in unity, it's like, or if I kind of feel the whole world in empathy, in the like, I don't feel like I'm serving at the highest frequency in this world. So that would be the way that I go into it. The gift frequency is really the path, the human pathway.
Yeah, I think it can be very challenging for humans who are focused on some form of evolution to not identify with the shadow frequency, the gift frequency, and the city frequency as being a progression from that. We almost relate to our own life process of saying, okay, well, obviously you're immature, you're like a baby, you're an infant, so of course you're going to express the shadow frequency. But when you mature, then you can reach the gift. And then on this spiritual path, you might reach a transformative state where you're only the city, that transcendent energy that, you know, permeates everything holy, and sacred. And it strikes me that, we were talking a little bit today, early in our earlier conversation, about how this gene key 2, the divine feminine, the ultimate yin, the receptive, when it combines with the creative, the masculine, the yang, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3. And I think about that in terms of 1 and 1 being the experiences of, we can experience shadow frequencies, we can experience gift frequencies, and they can overlap and oscillate and change places. And we can shift in and out of each of those depending on the environment we're in, the state of being that we're in, and how we choose to show up. And through it all, that third element, the city, is like permeating the whole process. And we may have moments of experience where that perfume, that essence, that quality of the city suddenly comes through us where we can see it and others can see it. And we may have a connection with that energy, but it's it's really something that occurs and exists beyond our our humanity as an individual. And you know, that's my perspective. I've never been in the presence of what people might refer to as an enlightened being. You know, a person who has transcended all human suffering. And I would be curious to understand more about how those city qualities function in a person that we recognize that way. But from my very unenlightened state, you know, I feel like that third element, you know, it's not something to strive after. It's something that the gene key to the receptive, you know, the that receiving, it's something that you receive if you're open to it, if you're available for it, to be aware of it, to notice it, to see it show up in like little sparks or little moments. And you know, I feel like that this particular gene key, the process of receiving, it's really like a training for that type of awareness. You know, instead of looking at the growth of awareness as like, okay, we're after this goal to be that needs to be attained. You know, we're gonna be we're gonna manifest the cities of the gene keys, or you know, and you get to a point and you're kind of like done. But I don't believe that ever actually happens, you know? And and I sort of wonder if you have a particular perspective regarding life's work around that aspect, and how you have noticed that or have not noticed that. I don't know. I'm curious.
Mm. Yeah, I believe that I can feel the city actually in my body. You know, I can
Mm,
close my eyes and I can tune into that essence of that. I can feel the breath I can feel my breath, but I can also kind of feel the breath of my cells, or the breath of my lymph, or the breath of my yoni. Like I can tune into the breath of me, and I can kind of feel a symphony of all these breaths, which could be the same thing of saying like the life force that is moving through me. I can feel my heart. I can feel a little tingling in my belly when like when I can feel all these parts of myself that are making a unity. The city's in me, and I feel like the sometimes the misunderstanding with the life's work is that, oh, I'm going to be this city in the world. Maybe actually the city is there all the time and it lives inside of us. If we can be receptive enough, it's almost like the feminine, or the second gene key, is showing us how to experience the cities that are already there. And that is about being receptive to them, like you were saying, and feeling them inside of us. Because at the end of the day, I believe that it's only when you first feel it on the inside that it can have any kind of positive effect on the outside. And that's, I guess, where I'm speaking even more to the pretending that you have found it somewhere out there in spirit through your contemplation. You know, for me, it comes of like going into the core of that little, you know, that little seed. You were speaking about the ova and like you know, you're speaking about that before, because it's that little, you know, I mean, now I'm kind of seeing like spermatozoid. I kind of seeing that little thing, that there's so much potential in it. If it gets to orient the way to the egg, and it gets to create. But even in that creation, there is a gestation. So there is something about there's something about a gestation in the body that I feel, a gestation that happens even from the womb and the wound, that's where the first, it's almost like you can see those snowdrops in the early spring, even in places like Sweden, there's still snow. And then you have this little, you can see that little green thing that is kind of starting like this, and then it's going to open. If it doesn't snow and it kind of dies, it's the same thing. It's this, it's the vulnerability and the enormous like inner strength of life that I see and that I perceive. And it comes from the earth up, it comes from the form up. It doesn't really, I think that there are enlightened states for sure that kind of comes like a lightning and they come down into you, but those states are very, very volatile, and those are the states that are going to lead us to a transmutation where we're going to levitate, like we're not even going to be here anymore. So they are not really interesting in a way, because then we're gone. And I guess if there's one city that wants to be in earth, that wants to be embodied, that wants to embrace everything that it is to be human, that would be this Gene Key. And she would, I believe, feel it from the inside out. And the more she feels it, the more that she tunes in with it, the more there might be a glow around her where people say, wow, that person really seemed to be comfortable in her own being, and then that is, that's a kind of role model, that's a kind of orienting others with the frequency that we were speaking about voice on the other call today, John, and you were saying, the voice that when you resonate with the voice, that frequency, even like sound frequency, might resonate with something in you, or even help you come back to a frequency of resonance that your body have forgotten. So I see so many things kind of coming together.
That's awesome. We haven't really looked at a gene key from this angle before, because the solar energies, as it's moving through the transit, when we look at a lunar alchemy process, we're looking at a reflection with something that we could see as the opposite of unity, where the moon is a separated body from the planet that it is intimately connected with. And I titled this particular lunar alchemy "The Shadow of Resistance." And of course, in the gene keys, that's not the shadow frequency. The title is Dislocation, because I believe he's looking at a more specific expression of this particular key and how it shows up in experience. So we have this shadow frequency of dislocation and the gift of orientation. I'm wondering if you can kind of tie those two into this discussion.
Yeah, I like to go through to the shadow, actually through the repressive and the reactive, because dislocation, again, we're speaking about a gene key that's really vast. So even dislocation is kind of like, it's very vast. So I would go to the repressive and the reactive. And the reactive is actually a reaction to that vastness. So being regimented means that you're kind of perceiving that vastness of what it is to be in form and everything that means. And to not have to feel that kind of in every moment, everything in life is moving and kind of finding its place. And and finding its place sometimes for a tree, for example, means that the leaves are falling off, and then it's winter, and then they come out in the spring. So there is, in that orientation, there's death and rebirth in a way in the microcosm so much. So when we aren't trusting, and that's a very important word, life enough, when we aren't trusting it fully, it's going to be scary when the tree, when the leaves are falling off the tree, and so many other things. So that the reaction against that is that it's wanting to control, and it is to create a regimented life where you kind of create those, this kind of grid, and then you try to place things, including yourself, into that grid because it feels more safe. It suddenly feels like you think it's going to feel less vast and less easy to kind of get out of, you know, out of the pattern that your mind thinks that you should be in.
Mm.
So, and I've been close to that, especially when I was in an environment where I had to produce results that I didn't really care about. So if I would just have tuned into my nature and my kind of Taurus, this is also Taurus energy, I would just have gone my way, as building the world as the Taurus I am. But my mind had decided that I wanted to, I promised my dad I was go to business school, and I would have and I can't really do things as a Taurus half done. I have to do them. I have to do them well done. And then in order for me to be able to do it, I thought that I had to regiment my life, because it wasn't my true flow. It wasn't my true natural orientation. So in order to be able to achieve, I regimented my life. And it was, yeah, I guess, I never feel like I sat down during these years and I could feel what I said, that unity, that orientation within me with the currents of life. I more than anything felt the constriction, and then not being able to breathe, and the stress of, the pressure. So that wasn't a solution. It could look like that on the outside, but on the inside, I wasn't receiving anything good, you know.
Yeah, so that reactive quality of regimenting and controlling, it cut you off from your own life force
Mhm.
and your ability to receive that life force that is constantly coming to us. That's one of the great mysteries of life, is that once life is turned on, it will not be turned off until it's off.
Mhm.
You know, you can't be alive and dead at the same time. You know, no matter what is happening in your life, if your body is falling apart or you are the most fit and healthy you've ever been, either way, there is life force flowing to you. And of course, all the way along inside that spectrum, even if you're in a state where you're kind of like, well, I don't feel either of those extremes. There's still life force coming at you. And and that regimentation, you know, when we look at I was just taking a walk around a nearby pond, and there's all these reeds that grow in the pond, these, really tall grasses, and they turn yellow and die every year. And now it's just been raining and everything's green, and there's a few new green leaves coming up out of the pond, but there's also all of that yellow dead stuff that's just like piled all over everything. It's a mess. you know and and if we can't receive the mess as well as the perfection of organization that is going on, our tendency is going to be to want to dive into that pond and like tear out all those old reeds to make room for the new growth. And meanwhile, our entire country, in at least the United States, that once was covered in native grasses, native forests, all of that stuff, now it's all suburban green lawns. And we're seeing the consequences of that in the world. It's a regimentation that's cut off from the force of life. So it's really like this totally universal gene key. Do you have experience with the repressive
Yeah.
quality?
Yeah, so to just even more a little bit kind of clarify, I would say, because you're speaking about life force as well. So when we look at the reactive, I see it's a bit like the warrior energy. It's a bit like the masculine energy that kind of is fighting just to fight. Like I created that whole grid that what I had to do today, and like my clothes had to be for the whole week, and my food and my like I created that, and I was like kind of in war with who knows what in a way.
Yeah, it's like you're out to win a battle and there's not even an opponent, right?
Exactly. I mean, yourself, that's the only opponent.
Yeah, yeah.
So that would be that reactive kind of the warrior. And what I can see in the repressive is the collapse. And it's kind of that the weakness of, in a way, the feminine that can't flow, that can't be with. So it's a collapse. And then there, when you collapse, you know, there is no orientation. It's a collapse. So it's not even being lost somehow. It's a state of collapse. It's a state of, I feel like it goes very much together with the entropy of the first gene key because they are programming partners. It is a kind of repression, and I don't really see it. I mean, it might orient and be kind of, but it's more than anything. What I see is just like a giving up, and I feel like there are many reasons for why the, you know, if we speak about this as more feminine aspect, there's a lot of reasons why the feminine would give up and be like, okay, I also have to be a warrior and I have to be regimented. And I think many women and many men, when we get into that being lost, it's so scary. So we actually kind of jump out of it and start to be regimenting life and at least have something to battle for. Because to be, and that's the same thing with the first gene key again, to be in that void, in that receptive state before the universe was even created, before the creative spark, before the egg was, the sperm and the egg, is, I mean, that's a really kind of scary place to be, because you kind of have to trust that something is going to get born at some time. And at the same time, there is this feeling of inertia and collapse where you don't have the energy to do anything. So
Yeah.
it's probably a scarier place to be swimming in the void somehow, and you know, not knowing how there's going to be fertilization, not knowing with that tree in the winter that they're actually going to, you know, not even see that little thing where the leaf comes out of. But I feel like there has been that we are judging the collapse, and that collapse is weak, you know, but actually, and you were speaking to it earlier before as well, because there are some states where we can do everything we want, but it's not going to heal faster, or it's not going to, like, there are those places where we are conditioned to think that we can do something about it. And that's the whole point with human design. Your mind thinks they can do those so many things, and at the end of the day, it's kind of being a passenger of life, and trust that, and then we're never lost because we're always a passenger of life. So there's something powerful with the repressive, you know, not, of course, yeah, powerfully repressive state, but I also think that there is a very fertile soil in the repressive state. It's a portal to something, but that portal has been judged as being a portal where we shouldn't even be. So then we tend to really go in, all of us, to be these little warriors struggling around. And, you know, and if we are in the collapse and the entropy of the one and the two, it's like, oh, go to your doctor. You don't even have to go to him now. It's telething. I think you just have to be a number, you know, your social security number, whatever, and then you get sent to you in a package that doesn't say it's so loft, or, you know, whatever, because you're supposed to be able to be private about it. And, you know, it's like, it's a number and 2 clicks, and then you are maybe for 15 next years, you're some kind of medication that maybe was just a fertile state of waiting for the winter to end. And I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't, you know, more, you know, that there aren't mental states where maybe we need some kind of help, but I don't think that help should come from 2 clicks and an Amazon Prime, you know, pharmacy stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing something in what you're saying that feels significant in terms of this concept of alchemy.
Mhm.
And when we're speaking about this reactive nature of regimentation, there is also a quality that we can utilize that has a positive effect on our evolution, which is discipline,
Mhm.
which, you know, regimentation and discipline can be easily conflated with each other, you know, where, okay, well, discipline means I have to be up by 6 and I've got to, you know, do my 30-minute jog and 100 push-ups by 6:45, you know. that might be a discipline, but it also might be a regimented reactive quality.
Mhm.
Likewise, in the repressive state, we can be we can experience loss, being lost, not being able to understand where to go, and not being able to find any energy to get out of this sort of what do I do next state. At the same time, there's, like you were saying, as a portal into a new experience, there's this possibility of facing that vast expression with courage, and paying attention with awareness to what is actually happening. Like in that repressive nature, it's like, well, I don't know where I am in relationship to everything outside me, so I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to shut down the the movement, the life force. I'm going to just close it all down, because anything that I do might turn out badly, or it feels bad to try anything from where I am. And yet, when we don't have any relationship to all of the things that are outside us, it's actually guiding us towards, okay, what is happening within me? And as soon as we get quiet enough to hear that, there's going to be an impulse for activity, because that's what life force does. It comes through, and it gives us an impulse.
Mhm.
And when we take that impulse and set it up into a system of discipline, even if that discipline means to pay attention to our impulses, you know, not saying, oh, you have to, do the exercises every single morning to be disciplined, but to decide, I'm going to pay attention and be aware to the impulses that are coming up within me. And I'm going to find one that I can take some action to move in that direction. Even if it's not, you know, humans are amazing that we can just come up with all kinds of unnatural impulses, like you you t- you can talk to people and say, well, what are your dreams? And somebody might say, well, I dream of having $1 million. And it's like, well, is that really an inborn impulse that you grew up with? Well, maybe, but more accurately, I would suggest that an impulse would be like, I want to grow a business to epic proportions. That's what the impulse feels like, like, and I don't believe you're born as a baby going like, oh, I want $1 million, whatever it is. But if we can't receive those impulses, if we can't receive the invitation to go inward, and that's what that gene key is all about, is becoming receptive and allowing that orientation to come from that receiving. It's like, man, it's just it just blows me away that somebody was drawing, you know, lines and 6 lines, like 4,000 years ago or longer maybe, and they had all this stuff figured out, and here we are still trying to like get it into our bodies to some degree that we can walk it out and experience it.
Yeah.
But Bella, thanks for sharing about your life's work experience. I always feel like when anyone has an opportunity to share about that a particular gene key that is so in such deep connection with our life's experience, it really like blows wide open the possibility for understanding a particular key, more so than, if someone is sharing about a gene key that isn't in one of their sequences or isn't activated in their human design. it's not that it doesn't exist in our experience. It's just not quite so incredibly present, you know? And there's something about that presence that I think is really really awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks to everyone on Facebook for watching. We'll continue on and move in the direction of our quantum healing transmission, which if you want to gain access to that, check out the comments. We'll post a link for you to engage in that another time. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.